I was always told, "You are nothing," and I believed it. A quiet girl who never answered back, yet years later, a single sentence from her became the greatest revenge of all. I still remember that sentence today as if someone had hammered it into my chest like a nail. "You are nothing. And maybe you will never become anything." It was my mother's voice in the kitchen at 7 in the morning as I lifted my bag to leave for work. I didn't respond. I nodded as if she were right. Maybe that was the moment I learned that silence was the safest place to hide. I was 21 years old. I had dropped out of community college halfway through. I was working 2 jobs, one at a grocery store, the other at a diner. The bills never fully got paid. Rent was always late. Health insurance felt like a joke meant for other people. And home? It wasn't really home. It was just a place where I was constantly reminded that I was a burden. My sister Amy was the golden child. Her dreams mattered. Mine didn't. I never tried to prove myself. Maybe I was too tired. Or maybe every time I opened my mouth no one actually listened. So I worked. I paid what I could. I kept shrinking myself, day by day, learning how to take up as little space as possible. Then one afternoon the diner shut down. Restructuring, they called it. I tucked my final paycheck into my pocket and cried in the parking lot like a child who had just lost her only toy. That same week I lost my apartment. I packed my things into a friend's garage and slept on her couch for a few months. No one asked how I was doing. By then maybe people weren't used to asking anymore. Around that time my father got sick. A heart condition. Hospital bills stacked up fast. The house filled with noise, arguments, blame, panic. I was there, but somehow I still didn't count as present. Then a lawyer showed up. He talked about property. Old documents. Papers no one had looked at in years. That property was in my name. My grandfather had transferred it to me long ago, quietly, without ceremony. No one remembered. Or maybe remembering just hadn't been convenient. I didn't say anything. I didn't make a claim. I just gathered the papers and put them away, the same way I had always handled things. Silently, carefully, without drawing attention. Years passed. I moved to a different city. I found a job as an administrative assistant at a small medical clinic. The work was hard, but it was honest. People spoke plainly there. Little by little, I learned how to spend money on myself without guilt. A dental appointment, an old but reliable car, a small apartment with a window where sunlight actually came in. I was still quiet, but something inside me was shifting. I accepted that I was broken in places, but I was no longer willing to believe I was worthless. During those years I rarely went back home. Holidays came and went. Phone calls were short and awkward. My sister married, divorced, and married again. My parents aged faster than they expected. Debt grew quietly in the background like mold spreading behind walls no one wanted to open. Through it all no one mentioned the property. And I never brought it up. Then the day came. We were all sitting at the same table. My mother, Amy, 2 uncles, and that same lawyer. Faces were drawn and tired. Voices were low. The debt had become unmanageable. The property was the only solution left. And the property was in my name. My mother looked at me as if she were really seeing me for the first time. "We need your help," she said. There was no apology in her voice. Just urgency. Just need. The room fell quiet. The same kind of silence that had weighed on my tongue for years. I surprised myself. I wasn't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. I wasn't angry. I felt clear, almost calm, like the air after a storm finally passes. I spoke one sentence. Just one. "I will help, but this time the terms will be mine." They stared at me. Amy opened her mouth as if to argue, then stopped. I laid out my conditions. Full transparency, respect, and one thing above all. No one would ever tell me again that I was nothing. I agreed to allow the property to be sold, but everything would stay under my control. I paid off most of the debt dollar by dollar with records for every cent. It wasn't revenge the way movies show it. There were no raised voices. No dramatic exits. Just a quiet transfer of power. For the first time in my life I wasn't sitting on the other side of the table. I was at the head of it. Afterward my mother called me. Her voice was softer than I had ever heard it. "I'm sorry," she said. I closed my eyes. The words weren't enough to erase the past, but they sounded real. And sometimes that has to be enough. Life didn't suddenly turn into a success story you'd see on a magazine cover. I didn't become rich. I didn't become famous. I stayed at my job. I paid my bills. I built a life that was small, stable, and finally my own. I learned that silence isn't always weakness, and speaking doesn't always require shouting. Sometimes the strongest answer is simply refusing to see yourself as small anymore. And when someone tells me no, you are nothing, I smile, because I know the truth at last. If this story moved you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more powerful real-life stories about resilience and quiet strength. Your support helps these voices reach others who need them. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for being part of this journey.